Hey everybody, welcome back to the Portable Gamer. Welcome back to European Truck Simulator 2. We're in Düsseldorf. I know last trip we were in, where were we? We were in Edinburgh? Yeah, we'd driven down, we were in the UK, and we had driven south a little bit from like Aberdeen. So what are we doing over here? I'll tell you after we get rolling, but I swapped back to the Volvo and we've got an intermodal container on here. We're going to head from Düsseldorf to Amsterdam. And as we do, we're going to have a chat. You know how we do when we drive the truck, right? Fire up there. Brakes off. Windows are down. Let's get rolling. We have fuel. I think we probably have enough to get there. But if we need to fuel up, we will. All right, so out here to the right, and then we'll make a left turn. Beautiful. So how's everybody doing? It's Sunday for me. It's Monday for you. And I have been immersed, past few days, I have just been immersed in mostly Flight Sim, but a little bit in Train Sim World 2. Carefully get out of here. Carefully. Got it. Got it. Reset the camera. Here we go. So yeah, I've been immersed in those two sims, and as far as what else is going on, let's get our front lift axle down. As far as what else is going on, I'm very confident now that Iberia and Colorado will be released with 1.39, and I'm pretty sure, I hope, 1.39 is released before the holidays, because that would give SCS an opportunity to sell those two DLC for the holidays, which I'm sure they would want to do, and patches for Euro Truck and American Truck Simulator, as we know, are free. That'll come up. That'll come up later in the episode. That's a thing now. That'll come up later in the episode. So I think that's what the timing of it is going to be. And you know, with everything being so topsy-turvy with coronavirus, COVID, the Rona, whatever it is you're calling, with everything being so topsy-turvy, it's not surprising that particularly a smaller development studio like SCS would need to make some adjustments. Everybody's making adjustments. So we'll see. It'll be ready when it's ready. And you know, I'm having so much fun with these sims. And I say this every time I say anything positive about any developer. I always have to add, I'm not a fanboy. I'm not saying they're perfect or that everything they do is great or that they never make mistakes. But credit where credit is due, and SCS continues to impress me. And like I said, that'll come up later in the episode. There's a larger point we're getting to. So we're still waiting on those. You know, well, there's several other games and sims that I have in my wish list that I've really sort of given up on. One of them is Dead Stick, which was going to be an Alaskan bush pilot simulation. I don't know if that is ever going to be done. And seeing the X-Cub in Microsoft Flight Simulator, if I were that developer and I was struggling to finish that sim and I saw that X-Cub, that would be, oh, that is dagger. That is heartbreaking, because with Flight Sim having every airport in the world, 37,000 airports, including grass strips, right, dirt strips, gravel strips. Now, I don't know if they have the airstrips up on the glacier near Denali, and to me, that would be, I guess, the most challenging, like, bush pilot flying, or the pilots that fly trips in and out of Denali and actually land on the glacier. That's next level. But I don't know if those are in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I'm sure there have got to be dozens, probably hundreds of dirt and gravel airstrips represented in Alaska, and you could fly that X-Cub up there to your heart's content. And it looks like there are going to be aftermarket aircraft for Flight Sim via Microsoft and also via third party. So there's going to be so many planes for that game over the next few years. So Dead Stick, who knows? And then there's a firefighting simulator, which I think mostly was going to be like fire trucks. I got the feeling from the look of it that it was going to be a lot about buying and building and tuning and decorating, for lack of a better word, fire trucks, right? painting them in the colors of your local fire company, your local fire department, configuring them the way you want. That was the impression that I got, although the game never really got further than you can go in a garage and you can look at a fire truck. That's their, download the demo. That's it. You can just look at a fire truck. So I don't know what the status of that game is. I think it would be a lot of fun, but I don't know if it's going to be all in the vehicles, or I guess a better way to say it is I don't know if it is intended to be all in the vehicles, or you get out and do things with hoses, right? Fight the fires, or if it's primarily about the fire trucks. I would take either, but it looks like we're not getting either. Looks like we're not getting nothing. So that is one. There's an Alaskan truck simulator, which I have to say it's made by Discovery Channel, or it's produced by. I'm sure it's built by some game studio, and Discovery just puts their name on it. But that it doesn't look good, and I've been really disappointed with I think every game or sim that I've ever played that has been in any way associated with Discovery Channel. I've been pretty disappointed. The gold mining one, that really didn't have much to it. The crab fishing, that didn't have a lot to it. Didn't really go anywhere. So we'll see. I mean, I'm always willing to be surprised. I'm always willing to be surprised in either direction. I'm willing to be disappointed by developers that have always impressed me. I'm willing to be amazed by developers that have always disappointed me. So we'll see. But at the moment, all of those titles seem to be sort of stalled. If anything happens with them, great. And then other than that, the things that I'm looking forward to this fall, we've got WRC 8 and 9 releasing, carefully around the bend here, WRC 8 and 9 both releasing the first week of September. I had planned on getting WRC 8 after the embargo was lifted and it was available on Steam. But unless there's really kind of a profound discount, I can't see why that would be smart when WRC 9 is going to be available on the Epic Game Store. So I'll probably just get WRC 9 and skip WRC 8. I say that, what I'll end up doing in all likelihood is just buying both. I'm going to reach up here very carefully, put my windows up, and let's get this thing up to speed. So those two titles are dropping. And then early October, we've got Dirt Rally 5. No, I'm sorry, Dirt 5. Dirt 5, because we're only up to Dirt Rally 2.0. So the next one would be, you would think, Dirt Rally 3.0. So Dirt 5. Now, I get the feeling from the trailers that I've seen so far, from what I've seen so far, I get the feeling that Dirt 5 is going to be sort of like Grid. It's just going to be a fun arcade type game, arcade style racing rally game to play, and it's just going to be fun. I think in the same way that Grid is fun and the F1 franchise is sort of challenging, even though a lot of people really don't consider it to be a sim. They think it's a game. That's cool. I respect that opinion. Drop our rear lift axle. And in the same way that Project Cars 3, if you've seen trailers for it, it's obviously just meant to be kind of a fun smash 'em up Forza Horizon style video game. Good, man. There's plenty of room for games like that. But I get the feeling that Codemasters is splitting the franchise, and Dirt 5 is going to be a fun game, and Dirt Rally will continue to be a very challenging, very difficult game. So I guess I'll get it. I mean, why not? And then at some point, it says winter of this year. But again, with COVID, who knows? Winter of this year, we are also supposed to get the British track pack for Assetto Corsa Competizione. And that is going to be, we already have, what do we have? We have Brands Hatch. We have Silverstone. We're supposed to get Oulton Park, Donington, and Snetterton. And then the sixth track that they race on, carefully, the sixth track that the British GT drivers race on is Spa, which we already have. So once that is in place, we will be able to do a proper British GT championship. And knowing Kunos, they will probably include that in a patch, so that we have, we've got what? The International GT, we've got the GTWC, which used to be Blancpain and is now GTWC by AWS. That's easy to say. All right. little bit of gridlock. I think I broke the traffic when I cranked it to 1.7. So it goes. So yeah, those are the titles that I'm looking forward to. And as far as Microsoft Flight Simulator and Train Sim World 2, are we detoured? Of course we are. Of course we are. It is every trip. Every trip I take, we get diverted. And it seems like that happens no matter how low I set that setting. I don't know if something is permanently overwritten in a config file somewhere and it doesn't matter where I put the slider. But yeah, it seems to happen every single trip. Not a big deal. What was I complaining about? Train Sim World 2, right. I sort of knew how I was going to feel about it, and I had seen enough threads saying it's the same game. And it is. It really is. It's a patch. Now, you do get 2 new routes, and so I paid $25, and I got 2 new routes. So in that way, okay, cool. You know, that works out. I'm not upset or anything, but I sort of knew what I was getting with the sim, or not getting, as the case may be. Now, Flight Simulator, I got on that hype train a little bit later. I was, I wouldn't say committed to X-Plane. You want to get fuel? Maybe we should. No, we got enough to make it to Amsterdam. Because we heard things about Microsoft Flight Simulator before it released, and there was a lot of really good PR done for that game. If I was running the campaign, I think I would have made it clear that the game was a little bit more accessible. It sounded like you needed like a gigabit Ethernet connection running 24/7, right? A veritable pipeline of data into your home. And it also sounded like you needed kind of a supercomputer to run it. Neither one of those things are the case. And in fact, you can even play it offline. You don't have to, well, now what's happening? All right, it's, well, this is no good. Let us go straight here. Let us go straight here and see if it keeps trying to flip us around and send us back to that detour. And you know what? We'll go 30 minutes, and wherever we are 30 minutes, we'll stop. That's how we do it. I think Luxembourg might be a dead end. Maybe. No, it's sending us straight now. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's you can even play it offline. You don't need to have absolute like rocket ship internet at all times. You can set up how much data and information you want it to download. I mean, certainly you can have it streaming tens, dozens, hundreds of gigs of terrain data anytime you want, but you can dial that back if you want. The game looks fantastic. Now, I've heard people refer to it as scenery simulator, and at the moment, a lot of the navigation and avionics stuff seems to be kind of missing and or broken. Ah, see, it's flipping us around again. We need to go to the map. Hang on. Before we get to this exit, I hate to do that, but we need to go to the map. To get to Amsterdam, see, we would have to go this way. Yeah, we're not going to make it in one trip because that adds 500 kilometers to the trip from where we are now after we've already left Düsseldorf. So we'll just drive for half an hour and then we'll cut it off. Okay. Not a problem. So then we'll very... Oh, sir. Jesus. All right. We'll very carefully change lanes. My goodness. Always exciting driving the truck. So ultimately, I would have to say I am pleased with Flight Sim. And I am enjoying flying again. Flight Simulator is probably... like back to when I was a kid. I would say that is when my relationship with sim gaming began. Seriously, when I was like 5 or 6 years old, playing Flight Simulator. And my dad's a pilot, and that is something that we could sort of bond over. And I love aircraft. I love flight decks. It really soothes my OCD and my Asperger's. I don't know what it is about seeing that whole wall of instruments and gauges and buttons and switches. But it is very, you know, that's my thing. You know, some autistic kids are into like vacuum cleaners or whatever. They find that thing that just clicks for them, and it soothes them. It makes them feel better. Flight decks make me feel better. I'm just telling you. I'm sharing with you as we're driving the truck. So being able to sit at a flight deck, being able to look at an instrument panel and then actually control that plane and have it be a pretty detailed, pretty realistic process. That's just always worked for me. And I got into X-Plane very late, and I figured, well, I'll just be an X-Plane player because I had no intention of buying, carefully, Flight Simulator. I didn't think there was a reason to. I didn't think my tower would be able to play it. I didn't think my internet would be able to support it. And when I found out neither of those things were accurate, that I would be able to play it just fine and my internet could support it, I did go ahead and buy it. Wow, we are getting a lot of frame drops. I do apologize. Not sure why that's happening. Frame rate is good, but we're getting some micro freezes. So I got X-Plane and I got all into it, and then I immediately kind of switched over to Flight Simulator. Now, I will say that Flight Simulator it's kind of half done right now. It feels like a late beta game. It does not feel like a fully realized retail product. And in comparison, X-Plane is much more complete. X-Plane is also much more realistic. And when people say scenery simulator, I think what they mean is at the moment, there's a very strong sort of casual console feel to Flight Simulator. And you don't get that with X-Plane. X-Plane is definitely a very serious, very realistic, very challenging PC-only simulation. I like the idea of accessibility in gaming. You know that. Make it so you can play it on a gamepad. Make it so you can play it on a potato system, right? Make it accessible to everybody. Don't lock people out. Everybody's budget is different, and not everyone has the ability to invest in the things that some developers and some game studios feel that you need to invest in to be able to play their game. So I love accessibility in gaming, and Microsoft Flight Simulator is much more accessible than X-Plane. But it is, I guess an easy way to describe it would be to call it a less serious sim at the moment. Now, they may add some things, and they'll certainly need to optimize it and tune it up and fix some things. But I am having fun with it, and it looks gorgeous. It is extraordinarily immersive. And I'm also finding, I guess, some of the things that I thought were broken or missing or dysfunctional. I found some Reddits where real pilots say, no, they're not broken, they're not missing. They're just not dumbed down the way they were in FSX. There were some settings of autopilot. Autopilot is something I've been struggling with, and in previous iterations of Flight Sim in FSX, you pretty much just put an altitude in, click the button, and off it went. And what I've read a lot of real pilots saying is, no, that's not the case, because the autopilot does not know what your aircraft is doing at that moment. On a larger, fully computerized jet, it would. But on something like a Cessna 172, it does not. You could be chugging along, heavily loaded, barely over stall speed. You tell the autopilot you want to climb 5,000 feet, it pitches the nose up, throws you into a stall, and kills you. So it's more about not just telling the autopilot the altitude that you want to get to, but how you want to get there. And once I knew that, and once I used the tips that some of these real pilots recommended, it works significantly better. It's not perfect yet. There's still some flaws in it. But that's on me as a sim player, as a gamer. That's on me to sort of do that research. Now, the flip side of that coin is there's virtually no documentation with Flight Sim, in the same way that there's virtually no documentation with Train Sim World 2, or Train Sim World 2020 for that matter. They more or less just huck you in there. What is... Okay. How was I to handle that? What the hell just happened? And now I've got somebody, directly behind me. Something seems different and not good about this game lately. I'm really kind of at a loss as to how to handle this. The only way that I can do it is just to drive forward and scrape along this bus, and that seems, that's not cool. Are we still? Is the engine still running? I think it is not. Let's get down to neutral. The engine was still running. Okay, so we'll start the engine. And we just have to, unfortunately, there's no other way to do that. I mean, what the hell was that? There's a bus perpendicular in traffic. There's a police car behind it. And as we approach, it backs up into our lane. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're well into 1.38 retail now. This is not, we're not in beta right now. So I'm not sure why that's happening. And I'm not sure if it has to do with me setting the traffic spawn to 1.7. But regardless, just pretend that didn't happen. You saw nothing. Oh. What was I upset about? Autopilot, yeah. So there's really no documentation. And I guess in a way there couldn't be. And this is the reason this is the explanation that I came up with. This is why I think there's no documentation. These are real systems. Like there are real Garmin avionics systems in those aircraft. And I suspect that if Microsoft or Asobo, if they were to put those manuals in there, surely somebody would do something stupid and then there would be a lawsuit, because it is America after all. Right? So I suspect that it has something to do with liability, but whatever the cause, whatever the reason, there's virtually no documentation. There is a very, very basic, I don't know what you would want to call it, kind of a guided tutorial, a very much on rails guided tutorial for the Cessna 152. But there's really nothing else in terms of, you know, getting the FMC set up on the Airbus. There's nothing for that. You just kind of figure it out on your own. Or if you're a pilot, I would suppose you already know how to do those things. So I'm gradually getting it figured out, and it is a gorgeous game. It is very easy on the eyes. It is extremely immersive, and it's a lot of fun. It really is. The one thing that sort of triggers my OCD is there are long stretches between takeoff and landing, as is often the case in real life. And one way that you can get away from that is to fly between cities that are about 100 miles apart. Because it takes, for something like the Airbus or the Citation executive jet, it takes about 50 miles to get everything leveled off at your cruising altitude. And you generally begin your descent into your next airport between 50 and 30 miles out. So, and I'm sure you've seen YouTubers fly flights like that. They intentionally select cities that are about, it's just going to flip us down here and turn us around. This is turning into the worst, most emotional episode ever. We just want to go down here. We just want to go down here. Now, is it? Let's try this. Yep. For some reason, it was looping us around backwards. We only have 173K to go. Maybe we will just finish this today, although I don't think we can finish it in the next 7 minutes. All right. So I'm sure you've seen YouTubers, Flight Sim, X-Plane, previous versions of Flight Sim, and they fly trips that are about, sir. All right, that was easy. They fly trips that are between 30 and 60 minutes, and they're awesome. They're really cool trips. Now, for me, that, like I said, my OCD it struggles with that because there aren't that many of those types of flights in something like the Airbus or a 737, right? Those aircraft tend to fly longer flights. Now, if there was something like a CRJ or an MD-80 or something, that would be perfect for a 100 to 150 mile flight. But what I need to do is sort of get myself used to flying those flights where you get up to altitude, get everything leveled off, and then immediately begin your descent. Because the middle part, right, just flying over the desert on autopilot for an hour, that can be a little tedious. I'm going to go make dinner, take a shower or something. And I've also, all right, customer expects delivery very soon. Do you know what we've been through on this trip? It's been a scene, man. Carefully. And the other thing I would love to see, because Flight Simulator has, it's got a wonderful feature where you don't have to generate a flight plan using something like SimBrief. You don't have to look up ILS frequencies. It does all that automatically. Once you select your intended runway to land on, it populates all those fields. When you confirm your transponder code, it automatically puts it in. It does a lot of things automatically. Now I'm curious, like I've been flying into Salt Lake City runway 3, 4 left, right? It populates my ILS localizer computer frequency. It does all that automatically. Now I'm curious, if I was getting ready to land and I requested another runway, if it would, when the ATC gave me that new runway, if it would put the new frequency in there. I'm curious if it would. I think it would, but we'll find out. But because it can do all that, I would love to see Microsoft incorporate a feature where once you get to cruising altitude, the sim essentially asks you, hey, since nothing is going to happen for the next hour, would you like us to move you ahead to a point where you are approaching the waypoint where you would begin your descent? Does that make sense? So essentially, it's a long flight, but they cut out the middle bit. So I'm curious if that something like that could ever be brought into the game. I would love to see that, though. They used to have a fast forward feature, a time compression feature, which was a little dicey. A lot of weird things would happen moving in and out of time compression, but we'll see. So ultimately, I would say yes, I am pleased with Flight Sim. It's not done. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. So it'll be fine when it's done. It's just not done yet. So that is that. As far as Train Sim, we need to slow down a little bit here. As far as Train Sim, it's a cash grab. I have no problem saying that. Say it out loud. Slow down a little bit more here. I would say it to Dovetail. I did say it on the forums. I did tell one of the developers it's a cash grab. You're not fooling anybody. It's exactly the same game. And that relates back to companies like SCS and Eagle Dynamics and even Milestone and Sector 3, Studio 397. All these companies are constantly telling you, hey, you know, huge new update for the game, huge new update for the sim. Or you fire up Steam and, you know, one of your games, one of your sims downloads 2, 10, right, 15 gig of patch. And there's no charge for that. And there may be new menus, there may be new graphics, there may be, you know, a lot of things, but they're not selling you a new game. And all of those companies sell DLC, and they seem to understand that if they keep the game fresh and continue to attract new players, those new players will buy DLC, and then they'll keep making money. So for something like Train Sim World, if you're releasing $300 a year of DLC, 300 is more than 30. True story. So at some point, you know, there's something in retail called a loss leader, and it's a product that you don't make a lot of money on, but you use it to maneuver people through the store and get them to another place. It's like giving away buns, right? But you put them right next to the really expensive bratwurst. Free buns? Oh, but only if I buy brats. All right, I'll buy some brats. So maybe you lose a little bit of money. Maybe you lose a nickel on those brats, but you make $1. Or reverse that. You lose a nickel on the buns, you make $1 on the brats, and it all works out. So I think for a lot of these companies, they understand, sure, it's costing us money to update the game. It's costing us money to build these patches. But by keeping the game fresh, by continuing to pull in new players, we are, not only are we selling copies of the game to those new players, but we're selling DLC to the new and current players. This is really bumpy through here. This is one of the older parts of the game. Does that make sense? So it seems like Dovetail does not get that, because I just bought the same game I already own for $25. Very disappointing, very frustrating. But I did it, and it's done now. And you know, it is entirely possible that I will buy DLC for Train Sim World 2 as it is released, but it's possible that I may not. You know, some of the stuff that I've been doing, I have to say I've been doing for the channel, and the Train Sim videos really they're not the biggest thing on the channel. So I don't feel like I need to get every DLC anymore and continually make that part of the channel. So that is what's going on there. And as far as why we ended up in Düsseldorf, well, I'll tell you. It is my dream, not just my dream, but a lot of people in sim gaming, particularly transport sim gaming, have a dream. And the dream is that we would have one sim to rule them all. And essentially we would have a first-person transport fever. And I was thinking, well, I've got a train simulator, I've got a truck simulator, and I've got a flight simulator. So what if we tried to create a path for a delivery that would require us to use all of those? So I did. Now the train sim routes are the most limiting because they're only, I think the longest one is about 30 miles. They're not super long. Carefully. And they don't typically run between big cities. But what I figured is if we, concentrating, if we were to haul a cargo from Hagen to, is it Wuppertal or Finnentrop? Both fantastic city names, by the way. I would love to live in a place called Wuppertal. But if we were to haul an intermodal cargo to one of those two cities, it is very close to Düsseldorf. And then from there, we would haul it by truck, which we're doing right now, from Düsseldorf to Amsterdam. And then we're going to put it on a plane in Amsterdam. We're going to fly it to London. We're going to get in another truck. We're going to drive it from London to Cambridge. Cambridge is the closest Eurotruck city that I could find to Silverstone. And we're going to cap it all off carefully. Should have gone, could have made it. We're going to cap it all off by doing maybe a little race in Assetto Corsa Competizione at Silverstone. So if we were role-playing this, essentially what we're saying is we need to take a part from Germany to Silverstone for our Mercedes, for our AMG GT3. We need to haul a part from this city that we start in all the way to Silverstone, put it on the car, and drive in a race. And at that point, we would have linked 4 sims. Now, I've seen people talk about farm sim, that they would like to do that with farm sim, and there'd be a way to take a crop from the farm to the port, right, to the train, to the truck. I like that idea as well. Nope. Should have gone. But then they're stopping. They are not perfect. They're not. I think I've broken the AI. Let me do a test. Let me turn the spawn down to 1.0 and see if we solve some of these traffic problems. So, right, that is what's going on. Now, I would like to do all that in a live stream, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to, reason being the transitions. I need to get some overlays. I need to build some animated overlays in Steam. Ideally, what I would do is just tab out and throw an overlay up on top of the sim that we're in, and then open the other sim, switch OBS from one to the other, and then close out the first one. The problem is that momentarily, even if it's just for a moment, I would have 2 sims running. And if either one of those sims are either train simulator or flight simulator, they are unbelievably demanding. I don't think it would be possible to have train sim and anything, or flight sim and anything running together. I think they can only, I mean, they take forever to load even just by themselves. So the idea of having 2 of them running, no good. So what I'll have to do instead is, didn't have to go quite that far. There we go. What I will do instead is I'll build an overlay. We'll throw the overlay up, X out of whatever sim we're in, fire up the other sim, make sure everything is loaded up properly, and then we'll just fade back into that from the overlay. But I need to get the overlay working to do that, and then I need to test it a few times, make sure everything is functioning properly. So that would be the goal. I want to have a mega stream for our logistics. What just happened? This I don't know, man. I feel like this whole video is cursed. It has been a struggle. It has been. So yeah, I would love to. I'd love to do a mega stream with all of my favorite sims, sort of played consecutively. Go through all 4 of them. So we'll see if that works out. If it does, great. And I don't know how long it would take. It's probably about 30 minutes for the train, say 30 minutes for the truck, 30 minutes for the flight, another 30 minutes. So we're talking probably 2-3 hours. I don't know. And we've done that before for SnowRunner, though. So so we can do it again. Okay, brake is on. We're in neutral. Engine is off. Let's see if we took any damage to the cargo. Oh, we are late. Did we... Okay, just a late penalty. 128 euro, 20 XP, not bad. And we didn't take any damage. So good on us. All right, and we're getting up there toward level 47. It's been exciting. There you go. There you have it. Thanks for stopping by to check out the Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the European Truck Simulator. We'll see you next time. Take care now.